trying to record this for the librarians who weren't able to be here, so I'll hold still as much as possible. We are going to talk about a couple of things this morning, and hopefully when I'm done by 10:30, you've got me out of your hair. You've got some tools and you've got some resources that will be helpful to you in your work as librarians in different communities. So we're going to talk first a little bit about what is JJsList, how I got started, and why I started it. And then we're going to talk a little bit in detail about the directory and how it can be of use for librarians in your libraries. And then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other services that we offer and provide, just so that you have a general understanding of what's out there, whether it directly affects you or not. And then we'll also talk a little bit about some disability awareness communication strategies and tips for you, and we can do some Q&A and do a little bit of talking, and then we can take it from there. Does that sound okay? So I really hope that when I leave, you'll feel that you've gotten something useful for you to take back to work today. So, thank you. A lot of children and youth represented in libraries here, and so you may think, well, what does this have to do with me? Because a lot of the work that we do, in fact, 98% of the work that we do is around teens transitioning age 14 and up into adult life. But I think a lot of what we'll talk about today you can use, especially if you're going to be going into the marketing aspect of promoting the work that you do in special needs students, youth, children with disabilities, adults with disabilities. Am I in the right place? Is this the right subject area? You know how they ask you on the plane, this plane is going to Denver, is that where you want to go? I just want to make sure that that's where you want to go. So JJsList, my name is JJ. I started JJsList in the basement of my house in Wilmette about 6.5 years ago after finishing a documentary called Refrigerator Mothers that broadcast nationally on PBS about the generation of mothers who were blanket blamed by the medical establishment for supposedly causing autism in their children. I was briefly blamed by my Northbrook-based pediatrician when my son was exhibiting what I later knew to be autism spectrum disorder symptoms. I was blamed as being overbearing and neurotic, and there was nothing wrong with him. What was wrong with him was me. And all of those things are true. I am overbearing as hell, ask my sons, and neurotic for sure. And so those were true, but the symptoms that my son was exhibiting were not coming from me. So I started telling the story of autism through the voices of other mothers who really had been blamed for full entire generations, whose families had been destroyed by not just the disorder, but by the way the world approached them and their children. And after that, I was going to make a second documentary. I realized that my strength and my passion in disability is around telling the story, but I also needed to be much more proactive. And documentary film is a storytelling vehicle, but it doesn't do anything. It shares a message, but it doesn't make change. I'm about change. I'm about interested in the paradigm shift of how we perceive and interact with disability from even a generation ago, even 15 or 20 years ago, to now what's going on today. And you, as librarians who are interacting with students and children with disabilities, are totally part of that paradigm shift. And when I mentioned earlier that adult is the next piece, adult disability is the next piece for librarians, and you're already starting to be part of that and that paradigm shift, because the children grow up. And what feels really meaningful and good and sometimes even cute and quirky and even fun isn't so much fun anymore when you're 18 or you're 26 or you're 29 and your world is pretty empty. And the world, so when you have a disability as an adult, you finish high school, we call it in the world of adult disability the vast wasteland, or falling off a cliff. So as with a lot of things, the attention and the focus starts with childhood, and then it does go into adulthood. But where we are right now with adults with disabilities is often they're individuals who are unaccompanied, who still require ongoing support and in many cases don't get it, or if they do get it, it's still support that's comes from another generation of thinking, a different time of thinking. So we're all part of how do we shift, how do our services adapt to a growing number of adults with disabilities who are coming into libraries as a place for being around people, using the internet, being around people, looking at books, being around people. It is, you know, I don't have to tell you, the world of the library is changing very dramatically. So, wrong? Am I off base with that? So, as we talk about this, I'm going to talk as somebody coming from the adult world, but I'd love to make this very discussion-based and very back and forth. It's not just me yapping. To throw out your ideas, your thoughts, and your experiences as they relate to you if I throw something out that's of interest. So instead of doing a second documentary, I started JJsList.com. It started out as and it continues to be, a growing resource, Yelp.com style, where visitors can post information and reviews and comments about any business, anywhere, anytime. And in its disability awareness, how disability aware is that business? So what is disability awareness? What is disability awareness? What does it mean? And there are no wrong answers here, so throwing it out to you.
Providing, looking at what types of accommodations whether it be physical or otherwise.
Yep, physical or other accommodations. What are the accommodations like, if any?
Inclusionary. I mean, with making accommodations, but again, I don't know, I did a display yesterday on Black History Month, and it's not about, you know, heroes in history, but they are still part of America.
Right.
So again, we don't want to talk about, you know, oh, we take care of autistic people, we take care of a range.
Of everyone.
Of everyone.
Of everyone.
And they just happen to be a subgroup.
Yes.
That is, we accommodate everyone.
Right, diversity of service.
Right.
Diversity of service style. Other ideas about what disability awareness? I really have such a hard time staying still. Other thoughts, yes?
And then making your employees aware of behaviors and things like that, and educating them as far as the business might be, so that they can recognize it and they're going to behave hopefully appropriately and,
Yes.
and such.
I'm going to call that flexible customer service. Being flexible in your customer service, being respectful in your customer service, and welcoming to a diverse range of abilities and presentation by other people. Disability awareness, welcoming, flexible, respectful. And some of those disability aware features that demonstrate that a business is welcoming, flexible, and respectful: physical accessibility, accommodations. What are some other things that might indicate, other features of a business that might indicate a disability aware business? They can be specific, general. How about Braille available, audio, sign language, specially trained staff?
Yeah, their ability to have people with disabilities working there, and their openness to that.
Put that right at the top of those. Can you say that again and loudly?
Yeah, it's their openness to having people with disabilities work there.
Employees with disabilities. So as we go into the adult world, employees with disabilities. Libraries are known in some cases as places often very open to high school transition classes where an individual with a disability will come in and build skills. And there are certain skills that libraries need that are often very, some individuals with disabilities are very adept at. So yes, employment of people with disabilities is a big one. And there are other things as well, but that gives you kind of a sense of what disability awareness means. What does it mean to be a disability aware business? Again, libraries are at the forefront, and I would say we have a great deal of engagement with libraries because of that. And so what you are doing in your work with children, youth, and adult is really setting the example for businesses both in the public and the private sector. So yay for what you're doing. So that's a basic background about what JJsList is about. I'm just going to show you short video that we made when we first launched the website. Let's see if I can find it. And then I'll take you a little bit around the website, but I'm not going to spend the time wasting your time showing you the website, which you can certainly figure out on your own, but we'll look at a little bit of it. I will just let you know that JJsList.com has grown in the last 6 years organically. We have a reach now of about 35,000 a month, so when a review is posted on JJ's List about a good experience, we let the world know about that. And it helps magnify the impact of the work that you do each and every day when something good is said about the work that you do. So it doesn't just stay, it feel good for you. It helps to create a change, a paradigm shift that we're talking about in including people who are diverse, and that means disability in our communities. The reality is that when we think about disability, thankfully, 20 years after the passage of the ADA, the perception about people with disabilities who have physical disabilities, wheelchair users, individuals who have visual impairments and hearing impairments is becoming more and more accepted. And so when the world at large thinks disability, that's what they're thinking. Well, I'm going to guess that most of you are dealing with people who have other kinds of disabilities. We might call them invisible disabilities. They may not be invisible right away, but I think that you were saying that we don't know what the heck this is. I mean, we're still kind of, we being the world, getting used to what do you do when you're around a wheelchair. And we'll talk a little bit about that too, but when we're talking about somebody whose communication is non-existent or who has unusual physical movement and gesture, or who doesn't look at you when you talk, or who might make unexpected noises, or whose communication skills are just so different from the norm, that's the paradigm shift that we're now taking part in, and that's where most of the reviews come from. Most of the reviews on JJ's List are positive, about 98%. Those that are negative tend to come around physical disability, use of service animals, inaccessibility of a place. But when somebody in the developmental intellectual disability community posts a review, it's usually because they were so well received. And that's where we're part of that shift. So looking together just at the three major parts, there's writing a review. And I'm going to encourage you, we're not going to spend time on that today, but I'd like to ask you, when you leave today, one of the tools that you take is the idea that you're not just thinking about what's going on in your library, but every time you go out into a business after today, start looking around for some of the things that we just talked about. And please, post your reviews of the businesses. There have been several thousand business reviews posted of several thousand businesses. Several hundred have joined the directory. We are, I like to say, we're somewhere where fair trade was about 10 years ago. Somewhere where maybe breast cancer awareness was about 10 years ago. It's the combination of our voices as consumers that's really going to push this out, supplemented by the work that you do as businesses. So you can post reviews, please do. All you have to do is create a profile just like you would on any other website. We do not share information with any third parties at all. The next piece to look at is, and the place that you might want to take a look at is the directory. There are 23 or 24 industry sectors listed here. Any business, anywhere, anytime can be reviewed and should be. We've had reviews come in from about 23 states so far. And you can see that there are 19 library listings. So we'll just jump into the library section. And I'll show you how. We've got Batavia. Let's look at the different libraries. You can look, we'll scroll through this and you can just see if your library is reviewed here. What you will see is if you see the JJsList.com logo, that tells you that the library has received a review. In this case with Abraham Lincoln, it's a positive review. But the library itself has not joined the Disability Aware Business Directory. But wow, the New York Public Library did. Holy cow, I didn't know that. Wow, that's cool. And so Arlington Heights has actually, now this one I'm going to have to not seeing a review, and yet the, it doesn't look like the Arlington Heights logo is there. I'm wondering if we're just waiting for that logo. Batavia, Crystal Lake, we'll just scroll down here. Deerfield, 4 positive reviews. Evanston, Fountaindale, Glenview, Painter, Highland Park, Northbrook, 11 positives. Skokie, woohoo, 5 positive. Westmount, Wilmette, and Woodbridge.
Is it shameless to ask the people we work with that seem to appreciate our services to review us?
I am just right there with you. No shameless self-promotion, absolutely, and that's what I'll give you some tools to do today. Your library should be listed in this directory. Some libraries will need to go through a process to feel comfortable about it. We're very happy to talk with you about it. How do you list a business in the how do you list your business? Very easily. First of all, it's free, and in the List a Business tab, you will see how to do it. Important things. Somebody needs to be assigned to manage this, because it really is important that if you're going to promote the work that you do, if you've got marketing, community engagement, outreach folks, they're the individuals who really want to engage with this, and here are some ways in which you can do it. Join it. It's free. You create your profile. The different things that you know you're doing already, you can put in there. I'm going to pass these out. If you don't, this just gives you information on how to do it. Super easy, so you can share it with administrative staff. If you are within the 6-county area that pays suburban bus serves, and I'll tell you why we delineate it like that, you can get this counter display, which has cards in it that say, how was our disability awareness? Please review us. So that's one way that you can, hand it to your patrons, hand it to the parents, let them know, we're doing everything we can to make this a welcoming place for all people with disabilities. Please let folks know. So that's a great way to promote it. This is one of the things that comes with your membership in the directory. And as I mentioned, we also will promote through we have 2 very, very active services. One is our blog. We'll look at that in a second. And the other is our e-newsletter. And today, before I get out of your hair, I'm hoping that we can just kind of gather with that sign and take a picture. We will promote the heck out of that through our extensive social media outlets. And it, again, gives you a chance as a library to start to build the disability awareness reputation that you want to have, because that's the work that you're doing. Thoughts, ideas, questions about getting into the directory before we move on? It's pretty straightforward. We have a gal, I didn't bring Sarah's cards, but I want to give you some email addresses, and why don't I do that now? If you are signing up in the directory, the person that you want to reach out to if you need help, her name is Sarah Armour. I'm sorry I didn't bring her cards, but it's A-R-M-O-U-R, Sarah with an H. Her email address is Sarah with an H at JJsList, no apostrophe.com. I am really, really proud to say that JJsList.com walks the walk of disability awareness. For 6 years, I have run JJsList.com voluntarily. We've just recently merged with a larger organization so that we can continue our work. But in all of that time, we have always made sure that the people with disabilities are the ones who get paid for their work before anybody else does. And Sarah has been with us for 3 years, working part-time. Her growth as a self-advocate and her growth as a professional as a result of being the business assistant for JJsList.com cannot be measured. And so when you interact with Sarah, you're interacting with somebody who's building her skills as a professional who has a valued place at our organization. There are several other folks with disabilities who are part of our integrated team of workers. So the more you engage with JJsList.com, the more people with disabilities are getting work, and the more people with disabilities are also engaged. So she's your first line of defense with your profile. Check it early, check it often, make sure that it's updated. Our website is still a little bit rotary dial. It's not, it doesn't have the fluidity that the websites of today do. We're working hard to raise the money to be able to do rebuild. But the neat thing about the clunkiness of our rotary dial website is that people with disabilities are building their technology skills on the back end. So if we're not able to, if it's not as fluid as you would like it to be, forgive us, complain to us with a smile on your face, and we're working to make that change. But I think you'll find it overall a very cool service to use. The other thing that comes with your membership is the window cling, which is great to put in the window of the library. You can put it in multiple places. If you want more than one, let us know. The publicity I mentioned. You also will receive, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, the 10 tips for great service, great customer service to people with disabilities. The nice thing about the poster is you should put it out publicly, because everything in here can be used by your consumers and your patrons as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about disability awareness trainings and seal of approval in a second. So moving on, showed you the website. You got to look at the directory. Take a quick look at the blog. And I have one thing to say about the blog, and that is it's getting lots and lots of traffic. You will find, again, it's a little bit rotary dial. You can't do a search for a word and then pull up every topic yet, but that's our goal. The most recent one that was just posted that Renee even tweeted about is 5 things every business should know about service animals. Libraries need to know it too. Service animals have become an issue of contention because a lot of businesses will refuse an animal, and then you get a lot of bad press and maybe even lawsuits. But this is just one of the many blogs that may be helpful and informative for you. And here's the cool part. Would you like to post a guest blog? Is there a topic about your service that you would like to talk about and be shown as, the youth librarian at Batavia Public Library? If you would like to, please shoot an email. This card I did remember to bring. Felistra Sidigu is our digital marketing community engagement manager. She would love to hear from you. Again, the blog goes into our newsletter, which also gets a big push. So you might write a blog about a specific topic that's of urgency or interest that you think the world ought to know about. Let us know. We invite you. They don't have to be long. It might be something that you've already done. You might want to write a blog about, 5 tips for every youth librarian to provide great special needs service. Something like that. Get creative. Here's your chance to share your expertise. So if you'd like that, take Felistra's card. And onward. Thoughts, ideas, questions about blogging? We won't get into how to blog today, but Felistra will help guide you. Yes, Renee?
And are you guys on social media?
Once again?
Are you on social media?
Well, I'd like to say we are social media. We are social media. We, as I mentioned, we have a direct social media reach of about 35,000 a month now. That is through e-newsletter, Twitter, huge Facebook presence now. I shouldn't say huge, not compared to other companies, but we think it's huge. What am I missing? Pinterest, we're somewhat active on. Google+, LinkedIn. So yes, everything, again, your blog gets pushed. When I say pushed, I mean pushed to our social media network, again, of about 35,000. So Illinois may be the last in the nation in terms of how it serves individuals with disabilities. Whoops.
You're fine.
Illinois may be the last in the nation when you say the word disability, and we really are in so many ways, but here we are in this paradigm shift. We have the chance to be the first. So yes, big push. Questions, ideas about the blog? Please visit, take a look at it, sign your library up. We talked about the website. Let's talk a little bit then about some of the other services that we offer. And then we'll talk a little bit about person first language, some of the tips that are on the poster, and we can do a Q&A. And hopefully we'll cover enough ground that you feel like you've got something to work with. I haven't focused on children and youth here. I haven't focused on adults specifically. But a question for you, are you seeing ways in which this can be a useful tool for you, whatever department you're in, and how you can get other library staff perhaps engaged in it? Good. So I'll talk a little bit about the disability awareness players, the disability awareness trainings, and then some of the other services we offer. There are 3 other things that we do, and it's a real push toward building disability awareness in our communities. We have a troop of individuals called the Disability Awareness Players that offer disability awareness trainings, how to communicate confidently and comfortably with a person who has a disability. The trainings are part of the service that we offer. Again, it is an opportunity for people with disabilities to be building their professional skills as public speakers and as experts. And it's a chance for businesses and organizations to build their confidence and comfort interacting with a person who has a disability. So I'll just show you the trailer first, so you can just get a sense of what that is about, and then we can talk about some of the other things that we should. That was an example of shameless self-promotion, but with a purpose. I would like to let you know that the Disability Awareness Players will be doing a training at the statewide Illinois Library Association statewide conference on May 9th in Rosemont. So if any of you are going to be there, or if you, yes.
It's reaching forward. For those that attend,
But-
it's reaching forward.
Yeah, thank you. Reaching forward. And so I think, in fact, Holly, I think that, no, we had met before that. Skokie has engaged us. We've done these with libraries, and we customize them to the needs of organizations and businesses. But if you are going to be at Reaching Forward, that's a great place to get engaged with the players. And our training changes all the time. We're bringing in more things that we need to work on, and it's all very interactive and shared. And so that's just a taste of ways in which you can learn directly from the experts, not from me, about how to engage with a person who has a disability, but we'll go over that a little bit too. Question: does everybody here have a PACE suburban bus? Is public transportation in all of the communities that we're here? We're all within the 6 counties, right? I know that one of the other services that we offer may not seem related, but if there is a group of adults with disabilities who come into the library on a regular basis, or you're looking for some way to engage that's not entirely focused on books, JJsList and PACE Suburban Bus are in a partnership where we bring a bus, a PACE Suburban Bus, and training to teach adults with developmental intellectual learning disabilities the basics of riding public transportation. In many cases, people who use your libraries as adults, not so much children, but as adults, will use it only if they can get to it. And so we do offer that service. If you go to jjslist.com or JJsList on YouTube, you will see we've produced 4 training videos, which are directed at teens and adults with disabilities to learn how to use public transportation. So that's another service that we offer. So, questions, thoughts, ideas? I want to just step back, because I don't think that I made a big enough stink about this, but I should make a big stink with you about it. Talking about the directory and putting your profile and assigning somebody at your library to really take charge of it is important. And I think you were the one who said, what about shameless self-promotion? I think there's really nothing emptier than a profile with no reviews, or a profile that a business has put up that has really old reviews. So we, as we were going through the directory, and I'm going to try not to call people out, but I wondered if you might be interested in reading a couple of reviews that people have written about some of the libraries that have really engaged in their profiles, or have done some, really done some reaching out. So let's just let's see. Now, you will see that recently, like we were recently at Skokie Public Library, and the logo is here. Once you join the directory, as you can see, you get a much fuller profile, a link to your website, and the ability to put in the nearest public transportation stop, and then any other special things. Thank you, Holly, for asking me to point this out. And use other libraries' listings to figure out how you want to shape yours. And then you can put in the disability-aware features that your business, in this case your library, offers. And then below that are where all the reviews are. And a lot of these were written by the people that did a training there about how great it was. The reason why I think the library is a good volunteer place is because everyone is so accommodating and friendly. I have had a good experience with the library. The Douglas Center, which is an organization that serves people with disabilities, also posted a wonderful review of the Skokie Public Library. And again, we will promote that. And you also, on the right side, there's a Google map that shows the location. And tied in with this is the RTA, the button still says Go Roo, but it's RTA Trip Planner. So if an individual wants to know how to get to the Skokie Public Library, all they have to do is put in their from address, and it will take them right away to figure out how to get there. So it can be very interactive, and just, you want to really encourage reviews to get posted as much as you can. Handing out the cards, it takes a little bit of push, because people, you know, they get what they want and then they leave. But the more you can get them to support the work that you're doing, the better all around. Any questions on that?
Can you just clarify how we would get one of those desk displays with the cards?
Yes. So when you register in the Disability Aware Business Directory, you will receive this is the old version of the counter display. It's now, you have to put it together, but it's not hard. You'll get this, and you'll get a set of cards. You will receive information about the trainings, and you will receive a 10 tips for great customer service poster, and a window cling to put in the window of your library. And these are all partly first steps toward earning the Disability Aware Business Seal of Approval, which is a new program that JJsList.com has started to give businesses a way to really differentiate themselves and their service from any other business. And if you're interested in learning more about how the trainings and the membership and so forth tie into it, this is information about the seal of approval, and the disability awareness trainings are on the back. So if you're interested in it, feel free to take one and pass it on.
So if my library was already in the directory, they would have received that?
They should have received that.
Seen it displayed anywhere.
Well, that was, and we've, you know, we'd love your feedback on this, but we've contemplated not providing the counter displays because they're a big expense to produce, and often we find they're just not put out. And then you have to get in touch with Sarah to get more cards, which is great, but it's a really good way to promote your disability awareness. So we're sticking with it for now, but let us know if you don't think you can use it, or if you're already a member and you don't have one, give Sarah a shout. She'll get you one.
JJ,
Yes.
the seal of approval,
Yes.
that's something that we still need to pursue at Skokie. But from what I remember of a quick glance, some of it's more geared towards profit-driven businesses. But is there, can you tailor it a little
Yes.
bit for the public library?
Yes, thank you for asking that. The question about the seal of approval. The seal of approval is one that is a program that we recently launched. So we will definitely work with your library to make it doable for the library, because it's important to us to get it out there so that for-profit businesses start to see the value in it. And so if we're really willing to partner with you to figure out how it can be cost-effective to do it. There is a real cost associated with the seal of approval for us, but we can totally work with you on making it affordable and something that you feel you're getting some value out of, because you will get some very directed, very specific digital marketing, social media services, along with the disability awareness training and other things. But we've also been contacted by organizations that are already doing a lot around disability awareness, and they'd like to make that part of, maybe that qualifies us to earn a seal of approval. So I won't go into it in detail now, but I'm happy to talk with any of you at any time in detail about the SOA. That's the best way to do it. I can help you try to customize it to make it workable. Person first language. Let's just talk a little bit about that. When we do the disability awareness trainings, we do a lot of role play and some interactive work around person-first language. So we can do a little bit of that now. Does anybody here, you may all know, what's person-first language?
Yeah, it's where you put the person. It's not like a blind person. It's a person who is blind. It's not
Yes.
someone who is autistic. They have autism.
Right. A person with autism the person comes first, and the disability, when it needs to be mentioned, comes second. This is an area that that our philosophy is built around using person first language. You will work with and encounter individuals, and often usually people with disabilities themselves, who absolutely identify with a disability and prefer, I am a disabled person. And that's the way that they would like to be called, and totally respect it, and it's totally cool. For me, as an individual without a disability, I know that in my years of building my person first language skills, the practice of putting a person first and then referring to the disability only when necessary has totally changed my way of interacting with people who have disabilities. And so, let's just practice a few of them. And I'm not giving you any information to help you do this, so it's going to be a little bit guesswork. Let's see. Well, the disabled person. What's a better way to? What's a person first language way to say the disabled person? The person with a disability, right? I'm thinking this top of my head. I'm going to come up with one other. The autistic boy. Boy with autism, if needed. So that's one example of person first language. The two areas where it can be a little more difficult to use person first language is deaf and blind. Because you can say a person who's blind, which I do, or the person with a visual impairment, which our player who has a visual impairment prefers to use. A person who's deaf, or a person with a hearing impairment. Again, culturally, the deaf community often feels very differently about that. So it's an area of choice, but we promote person first language.
What about someone in a wheelchair?
Next one. What about someone in a wheelchair? So the other piece and part of person first language is putting the person first and then the disability if you need to. And then the other part of it is use of language that is appropriate for the 21st century. Use of language that is also not derogatory. Because, and the wheelchair is a really good example of that. So I'll just give you a couple of examples of what we consider to be 21st century language and what we consider to be very outdated language and don't use. You'll be surprised. Handicapped. It is the legal language around disability, but it is not a word that we prefer, and it's a word that we would like to see disappear as we're working to get the word retarded to disappear. And why is that? There are a couple of thoughts about where the word handicap came from. The one that we think is most close is that it meant a handicapped person was a person with a cap in hand who had to beg on the streets to survive. There are other ways, other origins of the word, but that's the one that we think is most accurate. Librarians may actually come up with a better blog. Where did the word handicap come from? So that's handicap. Use all the time. Handicap bathroom. We prefer to say physically accessible or accessible. So instead of saying a handicap parking spot, what could you say?
Accessible parking spot.
Accessible parking spot. Or a handicap bathroom? Accessible bathroom. Why? Because it's great, it's accessible for a lot of people, not just those who have disabilities. Mothers pushing strollers, people pulling luggage. So accessible just, it's just a better word. It sounds better, it feels better, it has a better, a more accurate meaning, quite honestly. Let's talk about wheelchair. Often words confined to a wheelchair are used, or there's another one, confined to a wheelchair and wheelchair bound, thank you. Wheelchair bound. Totally derogatory. As my colleague with a wheelchair says, not bound by my wheelchair. I'm not confined to it. It's what gives me freedom. It's the actual opposite of what it sounds like, that idea of suffering. So we prefer to say wheelchair user or uses a wheelchair. She's a wheelchair user or she uses a wheelchair. So that's a really easy one to start incorporating into your language. retarded is another one, and then retarded, crazy, idiot. How many of us use the word idiot? I use it all the time. I'm still 6 years into this, trying not to use the word idiot.
It's banned in my house.
It's what?
It's banned in my house.
It's banned in your house. I mean, you really have to make a conscious effort to stop using some of the language that we often have grown up with. I don't know about you, but I grew up with the word retard. You're so retarded, right? Now we're being conscious of that word and the use of it. And instead of saying, she's retarded, she has a disability. But use of those words like you're a retard or I'm an idiot are, when you think about it, it ought to be put in the same basket as the N word, which is now the N word. You don't even say the word, right? So people have different feelings about this, but this is the philosophy from which we operate. We also operate from the philosophy that after age 18, the disability label is meaningless. Whether a person has autism or CP or cognitive disability or Down syndrome or anything else is really irrelevant. Because by the time you're 18 and really out in the real world, in my work as a business owner, it's not my job to understand what autism is. In fact, I don't want to know what it is. It's my job to provide good customer service. So a couple of basic tips can help me do that without really having to know what the person has or what the disability is. Talk directly to the person with a disability. I'm curious, when you're working with children, I wonder if the approach has to be a little bit different. So shout it out. As adults, we often are engaging with people who come with a companion. And we just advise, no matter what the issue is, no matter what you see or what the response is by the individual with a disability, look at the person with the disability when you're talking, even if the companion is talking for him or her. At our training work, we have a training ground now called No Boundaries, and when we communicate with the adults who have disabilities who are building their skills and the companion is in place, even the companions often say he, and they talk about him, even though he's sitting in the room. We really work to be talking to the person. What about with children who come in with parents? I'm guessing that children with and without disabilities, you're often talking to the parent, to the adult. Really? So
And that's children of all abilities. Oftentimes you
Right.
get a parent who wants to talk for the child and you try to make eye contact
So you
with
do.
the child.
That's so helpful.
What do you
Really?
want?
That's really great to hear. I was kind of thinking, well, maybe when you're working with kids, you're supposed to be talking to the mom, not the kid. Cool. So all the more then, yay, talk to the kid. Even if he is, flailing or doing something that, or is nonverbal. The other thing that I would advise in interacting person to person is if you're working with somebody whose speech is really difficult to understand, and again, I'm going to ask what you would do with kids. With adults, it's absolutely okay to ask them to repeat it. It's absolutely okay to ask to repeat it a couple of times. Or find a different way to say it. Or repeat back part of what you think you understood and then get the rest of it said to you. Or if the individual is capable of writing, ask the individual to write it down. Those are all adult interaction practices. Suggestions for when a child is hard to understand? What techniques do you use? What techniques do you implement?
The same ones you just
Same
said.
thing.
If I ask them to repeat, I say it back to them and they're like, no. Or if they are capable, then have them write it down.
Great.
Or ask them to tell you a little bit more about it.
Yep.
Where did you hear about this? And
Yep. To try to piece it together.
Yeah.
Then when we get to a point where it's not working, which it can happen, you're just not getting there, what we do is, may I have permission? Would it be okay with you if I asked so-and-so to help me out? Whether it's a companion or my colleague or a friend, to help us out to get to the next place so that you don't get so frustrated you can't keep going.
Yeah, I don't get to use this tool often, but another thing, and also looking at universal access, is to have some picture cards. So sometimes a kid, your top 3 questions, right? Is either they're looking for a book, they're looking for a video, or they want to do a craft or check out pieces to a game. And so to have something with options on a card that the kids can point at, it works too with the children who are really, really shy and mom is trying to get them to ask the question, but it just doesn't look like they're going to budge. And then you can offer them to point at what they're asking for.
And you know,
for
that's a
initial.
great suggestion for adults as well. You know, if I have a restaurant and and there are images I can use to point, that's gesturing is a perfectly fine way to communicate.
I had a coworker that would say if there was a child whose speech was hard to understand, my hearing isn't working very well. Can you write that down? So it never came out as, I can't understand you. He put it on
So he'd
himself,
feel
and the
okay
kids
about
were
it.
so comfortable.
Right,
with that.
and that's a good one with kids. I'm not sure I would apply that to adults, just because it's okay to say, I don't understand, but I'm trying. But I think with a kid, it is helpful because it helps them feel comfortable in their space. Other thoughts, ideas, suggestions?
Well, one of the things that we really try to do is with kids, because they will say, I was over there, we keep saying, no, look at me when you talk. And I really think that helps with communication.
Yeah.
And so, because they're so used to doing that. Well, I was over there, no, put your face here.
Yeah.
So it's hard for them to
make
but it makes the idea of contact too.
because they connect to where they were, and that's you know, it goes back to the whole eye contact part of our work, and it's such a natural thing for individuals without social communication disabilities to do. I would say that a lot of the folks that I work with, and my own son, he's really gotten much better at eye contact, amazingly better. Other folks that I work with now who are adults, the eye contact is always going to be a need for support. So look at me is a constant with us. But that's an area where as you're demonstrating, you know, we hope that businesses in the profit sector will start to say, okay, I get that this individual, eye contact is a tough one, so I'm going to see if I can figure out some way to make this work and not demand it. Obviously, customer service is a little bit hard if you don't make eye contact, but we can change some of this.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
I just
go right
wondered, do we want to be pushing for the eye contact if we know that that's hard for that person, or can we try and work around that?
I'll speak of it from, I'm in a customer service post, obviously I'm going to keep making the eye contact even if the individual doesn't.
Right.
So if it's customer service that you're providing, maybe not, but if you're educating or training or helping with skills building, I think it's really important to continue to call their attention to making eye contact. Because every individual I've worked with is able to get better at it and use less prompting. And it is a skill that is helpful to have. And if you never require eye contact, I think it just continues to keep a person very, very separate. So I'm an advocate of continuing to ask for it, unless I'm in customer service and then I don't think it's necessarily appropriate. I know I've way gone over my time. I want to pass this up while we finish up with a couple of other notes. If you are not receiving our e-newsletter and you'd like to, please just give me first, last name, clearly spelled, your library name, and your email address, and we will make sure that you receive the newsletter. There's a lot of really good information in it, and as I said, we'll be promoting what we've done today, and perhaps your library will be the next business to love on our homepage and so forth. There's one other thing that I also just want to share with you the most recent progress with JJsList. As I mentioned, I've run it out of my basement. We've borrowed space, moved around from place to place for the last several years, and I'm really delighted to say that in July we merged with a larger not-for-profit called Search Inc., which is located in Mount Prospect. Somebody is at the Mount Prospect Library. Search Inc. may be, the individuals who are served by Search in a more traditional manner. Search is one of many adult service agencies that provides residential housing and adult learning programs for adults with developmental disabilities. It's the more traditional path of service when the kids become adults. By the merger, we are now able to have launched a program called No Boundaries, where Anybody ages 18 and up can come to train and build workplace communication skills. We're located in Evanston, so when I leave here, I go back to work with all of these young adults who are looking to build their workplace and communication skills, eye contact, everything from what we call 1+1 communication, being able to do back and forth, because the work doesn't end with a disability. I don't know anybody who was diagnosed with a disability who makes a full 100% switch, but there is an amazing amount of progress that can be made. So I'm delighted to say that JJsList.com will continue to grow and thrive, and I hope that you'll all be part of it as we go forward. So before we take a photo, questions, concerns?
I have a question. Is there a cost associated with getting like an upgraded listing like this?
So the Disability Aware Business Directory is totally free. And then with the seal of approval, which is the newer program, there is a cost associated with that in the disability awareness trainings, but we will work with you to make it affordable or make it part of an in-service and build that. In terms of sort of silver, gold, platinum memberships, we're going to need to get a little bit bigger before we start to, when people are clamoring at the door and the for-profit businesses want to be in there, and Best Buy's like, yeah, give us the whole full package. Won't that be a great day? So someday it'd be really good.
I have a question about terminology for, it was something I actually called Sarah about, and I don't remember if I got to ask you, but we're redesigning our website, and what I realized is that I use the word special needs all the time because I work with youth, whereas the adult librarians usually use the word disabilities. And Sarah said that the word disabilities is perfectly appropriate, but I was trying to think of a term to use on our new website that would encapsulate all services for people with disabilities, and I wasn't sure. We kind of some libraries were using the word accessibility services, and Sarah said that's usually towards a physical disability. But I was wondering if you guys just wanted to get your opinion,
Sure.
Sarah, sorry, JJ, and also what you guys use on your website.
It's a really good one. Special needs.
Yeah, I mean, we struggled with the same thing, and I just called around a couple organizations, and they said special needs was they said it was acceptable.
Yeah, it's an area of debate, and so people sort of take their positions on it. And at JJsList, we don't use the phrase special needs, and because we feel that everybody has needs, and nobody's needs are special; they're just different. And my very, very good friend, who's very involved with JJsList, uses special needs all the time, and she feels very differently about it. She thinks it's very appropriate to use. When my son was very young, I used the phrase special needs all the time, and partly because at that point, disability diagnosis was not something I was comfortable saying, and I wasn't associating him with having a disability. So I think it's one of those areas that it's the call of the people organizing, running, and doing things. I really like the, did you call it accessibility?
Services. Yeah.
Accessibility services. You know, accessibility doesn't need to be just physical. Making it accessible, universal accessibility services, to me, should be expanded beyond physical accessibility, and we're the ones that can make that happen. The other thing about special needs is it really does sound like kids. And an adult, I don't know, special needs, whenever I have seen special needs attached to anything to do with adults, they treat them like kids. They treat the whole thing like they're kids. And we work very hard to help people who are adults get away from the fact that I'm special and I have special needs. But when you got somebody with a developmental disability who's age 26, who's been told he's very special, all of his needs are very special, his whole life, how can we expect him to behave with adult interaction skills so that he can keep a job? And I find that perpetuates a sense that I am a kid, I'm a child, when I'm not. I'm 30. I have a disability, but I'm 30, and I need to learn the right interactions to be treated like an adult.
Do you think the special word has come from, and not to place blame on anybody, but to say like the Special Olympics or the Special Recreation Association, I think that word is inherent to the population because it's used in certain realms, not in every realm, but in certain realms by the population as a whole.
Absolutely. And I think it's also reflective of the times.
Yeah.
If you think about it, mental retardation and handicap, that's language from the 60s, which sounded better than idiot, cripple, and, mongoloid, right? And so we moved into those words. And then in the 80s, it felt so much better to say special needs. And so a lot of organizations were built around that word special. And so we're saying, got it. Let's start thinking something different. Accessible services or, universal. Boy, that to me feels much more 21st century even than special. But we're at the beginning of that. I would say the world as a whole, the word special does a lot to fundraise too. You feel really good about special when you're giving your money to things that have that name. So that's why we take the position we do about special needs. I have way overstayed my welcome. One more question, and then I'll get out. Oh, thank you.
I do a lot of outreach. I work with what I call my super seniors. I have a lot of folks that are in their 90s, and what's our word again, with wheelchair and
Wheelchair user?
Wheelchair users and
Walker user.
I don't have anybody that walks them, that transports themselves as an able-bodied person. And I also work with people that have had strokes. Shameless again, even though it's outside the library, if it is the library, they could be doing reviews too.
The acquired disability, people with acquired
and
elderly?
that's the other question. Do you include acquired disability?
Because we were talking about children and youth, one of the things, JJsList.com is about all disabilities. And the area that we're working on actively now is senior citizens who have acquired disability. One of the hurdles is, as a senior citizen, I'm not associating with that word disability, even though I'm using a walker. It's one thing to build independence from a position of having had disability from birth. It's another thing to lose your independence and become dependent as a result of acquired disability. So the thinking around that is challenging. And so we're working very closely with the North Shore Senior Center in Northfield, where we are, to start to work on shifting that paradigm too. Where when you start saying accessibility services, I feel better about that as somebody who's starting to think about using a walker or considering hearing aids. So that's accessible for me versus I'm not special needs and I don't like the word disability. I hate the word disability. It's that. We're still caught in use of that word, but it's a bad word and it needs to go out. I hope when in 2050 they're getting rid of the word disability too, and it's all accessibility.
Are you starting a sort of a grassroots? I know so many of us deal with youth, but now that I've been moved over to the adult side, and I've been working with these seniors for 15 months, I would love to find out more and have a support group to find out what others are doing. And now you're talking about the North Shore.
Yes, we've just started. They're probably one of the first who will earn the Disability Aware Business Seal of Approval, because the staff there all gets that word disability, but the participants, it's a much harder sell. So we're not trying to sell it. That's the wrong thing to say. But the perception is very, very different. And I think it's almost where you have to bypass the word disability entirely and start saying accessibility services, universal, because it's good for everybody, and it's part of the life span. But it is very different to go from having a disability to building your independence, which is what we're all working on when we talk about lifelong disability, to being able-bodied and then losing your capacity. So the same happens with people who've had injuries.
And we have a lot of those that come into the library. I have a gentleman, I don't know if it's Parkinson's. As a matter of fact, yesterday he wanted to send a thank you card to someone, and he asked me to write the envelope and her name on the top, and then he was going to write what he could. But that's not only the outreach that I do, but really realizing that there are folks here and they are regular users.
Yes. And as librarians, you're on both ends of the spectrum. You're right smack dab in the middle of providing service to patrons on both ends of this lifespan. And so I guess whether we like it or not, you're in it, and that's why hopefully these tools will make it a little bit easier for you. But we are delighted about feedback. Again, another blog idea.
Well, I'm looking for you to get more
I know.
information.
So we're saying, no, question. When, asking that question, what do you think? Because blogs they're a little bit news related. You want to talk about a subject that's of the day, often news related, but it's also about your opinion, and it's asking questions. I don't get this, and what do other people think? It's an okay thing, okay kind of subject, because we don't know. Same with special needs. We're part of that paradigm shift, so we haven't got all the answers yet.
I have one more question. I don't know if we're going to be picking this up when we were talking about PR, but I know that I'm at Brookfield. I know that there's a group of, I don't know if we call it transitionary, where there's young men who all move to a home where they learn independence. They came into the library once, and I did a spontaneous tour. Do you have on your website lists of places that we could contact to offer our services?
What do you mean when you say offer your services?
To groups of young adults transitioning into independence, but to invite them in. Am I making sense? Like if there's a group of gentlemen or women that are going to a transitionary home where they're working together for their independence.
Do we have a list? I think the list that would be there are the service providers. I don't think it's a very well-populated list at this point. Service providers are typically not-for-profit agencies that are way behind in technology and putting themselves out there. However, what we could do is talk with you again. If you're looking to promote and do things, we could make that a promotional blog. Something, and let's talk about that directly. I know what you mean. These basic tools for promotion are there, but how you want to use them and what ideas you might have, we are totally open to helping you work with them. Wasn't really much of an answer, but yeah, we can help you figure that out. Put it in your profile. We will bring any agency, any organization that wants to come and take a tour who serves people with disabilities. We're your place. We'll give you a special tour. Okay, no overstay. I gotta go back and train. We've got a couple of posters here. Could we just take a picture? Anybody who wants to be in the picture?